Hi, I'm Maribel Lopez, the founder and principal analyst at Lopez Research, and I am really excited to be joined here with my friend and previous coworker, Julie Osk. Julie is the founder of Ask Advisory. Hey, Julie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. So, Julie and I thought it'd be great for us to do this joint podcast where we were talking about what we saw as themes at CES. So, I thought I'd just kick off because Julie's been in the consumer electronics space and customer experience space for a very long time. We're at the point where neither of us want to say how long we've been doing anything. So, we're just going to skip how long we've been doing anything. Let's just say we've known each other a long time. It's been super fun. Julie, tell me. Um, you've been looking at CES for a lot of different years. What was different about this year's CES for you, and what did you consider to be the key themes that you were looking at?
Okay, so what was different about this year's CES is there's a lot of what we're going to call like AI devices. And the bottom line is, I'm not sure consumers are going to care. So my top line view is, and you know what? I don't want to underestimate Sam Altman and Johnny Ives and what they're doing there at OpenAI, but it will be very hard to displace the smartphone because consumers lean so much into their screens and cameras. What we do on smartphones, besides communicate, is we watch a lot of videos, engage with a lot of social media, play a lot of games, and take a lot of photos. So I think that's the top thing. What we saw at CES was I don't know if we're going to call it like the introduction, but the evolution of a number of categories of devices. We saw smart home appliances, we saw robots, vacuum cleaner still tops the list. We saw some what we're going to call virtual companions, like pendants, like the R2 or the friend that, hangs around your neck or goes everywhere with you. And it's really, really hard to get consumers to buy another device that they need to charge, especially when the value proposition just isn't that clear.
I agree with that. The smartphone is kind of hard to beat. And I think I'm full up on wearables. I've already got a watch and a ring. I'm not sure I need a pendant. It's just like another thing to like charge and lose. And I don't know. So I'm with you on that. Um,
So, and I think remember, like, okay, you talked about how long both of us have been in this industry. I mean, a little bit of this too. You go back to Google Glass and some of the always listening, always watching devices, and I think that's an interesting idea to collect more context about our environment. And it feels like just an invasion of privacy for everyone around us when it's an always on, always listening device.
I think we've dramatically underestimated the privacy concerns that people have if these things were to become pervasive. I think right now they just think it's a bunch of, uh, tech optimists that, may or may not want to wear things. But if it were like everybody everywhere recording all the time, would that be okay? I'm not sure it would be.
But I would say too, I mean, I think there's also a theme here of build it and they will come, right? Where we're not clearly solving a problem that consumers have. But like, let me flip that back to you because you were very focused on, what the enterprises were announcing at CES. So what were some of your key takeaways and how different is it for an employee versus a consumer?
Yeah, I think the thing that was really interesting, you mentioned the vacuum cleaners and the like. So we were on the other side of that, right? On the enterprise side, uh, it's so funny. The Consumer Electronics Show, and who do we have displaying? We've got Caterpillar, we've got Bosch. Okay, Bosch does like a lot of consumer appliances as well, but we had like a lot of big iron companies talking about like physical AI. We're talking tractors. We saw a ton of humanoid robots. So basically, for me, the enterprise take on CES was it was the year of physical AI, where we really started to get serious and say, okay, we're not quite at the price point to have robots, but in some of the industrial use cases, it really makes sense. I don't think we're going to see them come into the home anytime soon, but I definitely saw a lot of both from the chip companies all the way up to robot makers. There was physical AI everywhere. So that was kind of exciting to start to see these things really, after we talked about them for so long, start to see them actually be a possibility.
So let's ground that a little bit in reality, right? I read this article, maybe in The Economist, about how like hundreds of thousands of Chinese were applying to get a tour of a factory where the lights are out, right? Because the robots don't need lights. Okay, so there's that. Like I buy into the industrial use cases, especially when it's dangerous and there's so many things that go with that. And then we talk about this connected consumer, like the connected devices in the home. And that hasn't even really taken off. Even after more than 10 years of smartwatches, we're barely between 10 and 20% adoption. So tell us a little bit. So where do you expect to see early traction of physical AI or what they enable between the home and the factory? What are you
Yeah,
optimistic
assuming
about?
okay, so like assuming things could pick things up and have that dexterity and all that other stuff, I still think that we're a long way from seeing robots with humans. So that means that they are in factories, they're in warehouses. There is some discussion about robots in healthcare, but even robots in healthcare, you can kind of partition those of what the robots do and how many humans are around them when they do things. So we've seen them in hospitality, but the question is, are they going to be in hospitality driving up to your hotel room door, or are they going to be in hospitality downstairs unloading a pallet? Those are two different use cases. So I think we're still at that very basic, like working with other robots, being able to communicate with other robots, working in places that don't have humans, or being very specific about what the guardrails are. Because frankly, humans are unpredictable. So it just makes it hard when you have, tons of machinery, perhaps, or even a 150-pound robot that could whack you. Doesn't seem like this is a consumer thing. And by the way, we haven't spoken about the cost at all. That's the other thing. I think we're just
Same for
now.
connected home devices. They're too expensive for most consumers relative
No,
to the
so a
value
lot
proposition.
these robots are like, for the most part, well more than $100,000, right? So,
Mhm.
assuming you could get one today off the shelf, you have to have a use case that says within X amount of time that $100,000 will be paid back, which you could when you're in certain industrial use cases. So, and maybe big farming equipment has never been cheap. So maybe autonomous farming, okay, I could see that. So that's where we are. But it was good to see not just hardware, but like the hardware and the software stack. Because as you know, Julie, it's like you can have great hardware, but if you don't have great software and great development platforms to wrap around it, it's not really going to come into the market. So I think we saw a lot of that maturing of the overall ecosystem happen, but I still think we're a long way. But that was my exciting thing because it's not even supposed to be an enterprise show, and there's just a lot of enterprise activity this year.
Yeah, it's still fun to watch. It's still fun to
It's
watch the
still fun to
technology
watch.
evolve and like what's possible.
Well, I think that's our quick take for now. We're going to come back to you with a